Welcome to the Think Factory podcast. We got one question for you. What keeps you up at night?
I'm your host, Chris Santamassimo from OGC Solutions. You can see us on the web at ogcsolutions.com. And I thank you for joining the podcast. So I'm here today with Sohil Singh from Stratojet. Thanks for joining us today, Sohil.
Thanks again for having me.
Sohil, one of the many interesting things that we saw at the recent trade show where we met, or where you met our team, is to get introduced to companies like yours that are really a success story in terms of family-owned businesses. The Stratojet story, I think, is a really interesting one. We'd love to share it with folks that listen to the podcast, but we'd also love to, do a little bit of learning from it and then talk about all the exciting things that you're involved in at Stratojet.
Thank you so much. I feel we still have a very long route to take, but we are passionate about what we do, and we love what we do. So that was the reason we started this brand and we started this solutions, and that's the aim that we are still focusing on. So for us, it's always been technology being the first part of it, and making sure our products and our solutions can actually, help end users and help life of, people using this in our industry. So, and we hope to keep on doing this in the coming future as well.
Well, you're a humble guy, because some of the things we saw from your portfolio are pretty interesting and really at the cutting edge of inkjet technology. So tell us a little bit about the Stratojet story, how you started, how your dad started the company, and how you got to where you are today.
Well, it started as a project, I would say. It was identifying a solution in a very problematic situation. I think that's how it all kind of got together. As we started as a very small sign shop, pretty much you would say that, we used to just do printing and use other products. ColorSpan was one of our products that we used to use back then. And, my father himself used to deal with brands like HP and Epson, and, there were the couple of brands that we had available in India. And, initially we started off with, from my side, which I was just starting up in school, as a 14-year-old boy, trying to tennis being my first priority, and then this being the second one. And we started to develop our own solution, which was our first ever solvent printer that we did. It was kind of manufactured from old frames of ColorSpan, and that's how we first integrated our, first prototype printer. Which was produced for, my dad to use in his printing. It had nothing to do with selling or anything. And, our focus was just, okay, maybe this would help him. And we learned a lot. We learned how the technology would work. We traveled to see what people are doing and, what they can use and what cannot be used. And, it worked really well. Back then, solvent printing was all there was when it came to large format. And a lot of people didn't even understand what large format was. People were still using offset printers. So for us, that was our first product that we, came together. We learned, we evolved, and we, when we produced the unit, it worked really well. It even worked better than what we had from well-known brands. And my father introduced that to one of his very close friends, and he was also a printer himself, and he needed an equipment in urgency. And, he couldn't use the one that he had there because it had a breakdown and there was no support available. So he needed something critical. So he ended up loaning him the printer at no charge. He said, it's just for us to use it. You can use it. And, that was, I would say, our first, Stratojet customer. We didn't even have a name back then, but he was the first customer for us. And, he loved the printer so much, that he was like, you have to tell me which brand this is. And, we want more of these printers. So that's where this idea kind of got evolved. And, me as a little boy back then, I was not very happy with my father that he took away the only printer that I had built. And, it was when I think about that story, I still laugh. I'm like, what? I was literally fighting with my father for doing that. And but I think it was a start of something big from there. And we started, selling printers from there. And, it was more from just word of mouth marketing, selling these printers to customers. And we, we had to have a name for the brand. So back then we just called it the Shark. That's all it was called. It's a Shark printer. So we didn't have any sort of corporate brand structure or anything. It was just, you know, building printers as a passion. That's how we all started. Even the technical team were all, basically engineers from different backgrounds. They had no clue what large format was. We took us years to just learn how all of this gets into place and, evolved as a brand. And then we got a visit from the owners, the ex-owners of Caldera, which was Joseph back then, and he was one of the founders and the owners of the company. And he sat down with us, and we were talking about brand building, and he was very happy to see an emerging Indian printer back then. And he was one of the people that actually recommended us to use the brand name Stratojet, and that's how even our brand name came into existence. And since then, we haven't looked back. We felt very passionate about what we were doing, and from one product to the other, we always focused on one key thing is, we cannot leave customers hanging, which a lot of brands, well-known brands were doing it back then, which was just lack of support and structures. So we wanted to make sure that support was never sacrificed, because we faced them ourselves being a printer back in those years. And I feel that was one of the strongest element that we had, and a key ingredient for us building this brand. And the second part was technology, because I feel if a company's not innovating, if a company's not focusing on what needs to be done in the next 10 years, you're already behind in our industry, because it's a very dynamic industry, and you have to keep on building a solution that is always evolving, adapting, improving, and making the life of a operator simple. Because in India, operators are not very well educated, so they cannot run everything, that simple. Like we feel that, it's very simple to operate a computer. As much as we say, there was a big lag back then. And so we produced printers to be super simple, super easy to use, and easy to fix for technicians, because they were learning themselves back then. And it is still with us. I think that's the core of our brand, is keeping things simple and keeping things as organized as possible, with the key part of it being technology, making sure it's always the latest and always, adapting and improving. So that's what we came with, and we moved forward with it. So from solvent printers to eco-solvent printers to dye sublimation, and then the last ingredient we added was the UV portfolio, which ended up being one of our largest products when we started selling globally. So we started off from India, then we expanded on to the Middle East, we expanded on to Southeast Asia, and then we decided to get into the US back in 2015. And we haven't looked back since then. It's just been a very, very strong, few years for us. And we've kept on improving, kept on adapting, bringing in upgradable solutions, which, are field upgradable, making the only 13 color UV large format that's ever in the US industry, was one of the key, positive things that we put together this year. So yeah, that's been our focus, is always innovating and making, people that are trying to get into the industry or trying to do large format and want to grow their businesses, giving them a solution that helps them grow. And I tell a lot of my team as well that our focus has to be always making sure that our customers are succeeding, because that's the success story for Stratojet, is if our customers are succeeding in their business. And the same story has been told to our dealers, that we have to make sure that wherever our printers are going, they're running and they're helping businesses succeed and expand onto the next stage of large format. So,
Well, every time a printer is down is money that's being lost by the owner, right? Because they can't print the
yes,
jobs.
yes. So, and this is something that my father, even till date, says is that, we're not selling a bag of chips or a Coke, which if it doesn't taste good, you can throw away. It's bread and butter for businesses. So if our printers are down, they're losing money, and that money is essential for them to give food on their table and their employees. So we come into a very essential part of businesses. So support is there's no doubt it has to be there. And we've followed that till date. That's definitely has to be there. There's no exceptions in that.
Well, in service, what they say is that sales makes the first sale and service makes the second and the third and beyond, because you need to have your customers really be able to depend on you when there's a break fix necessary.
Of course, of course. And you know, we have so much technology now. I mean, it's helped us, a lot. Like people are making global calls, people are doing, video calls, and all of this has helped. And we all, supporting is much easier than anyone thought. I know a lot of companies like to have a physical person there and doing the support part, but we always focus on making it easy. And that does not mean that someone would come in and have to do the fix. If a solution can be diagnosed over the phone or over just the software part of it, it makes a big difference, because a lot of things have changed in the last few years. It's no longer that printers physically, they're just ball bearings falling out of the printer. Everything's gotten much more sophisticated and organized. So it's generally like operator errors. They have a new operator in the shop, and he just needs support on understanding how to use the equipment, or he's pressed probably a wrong button. Even for us, we just learned that about 85% of our service calls are just either operator errors, or they forgot and they put something wrong onto the machine. And even if it's something that requires something to be replaced, it's as easy as the customer doing it himself. So, things have definitely, and it's not for us, it's for every brand that's there. I don't see the need in the few years that printers would actually need a human being coming in and fixing it. I think it's a lot of things have evolved, and it will evolve as we go forward in the future.
It's interesting, Sahil, to take you back a little bit into your story, which I think is a great one, is so you're working with your dad in a small sign shop. What was the motivating factor to develop your own equipment? What was missing in the market, or what was the opportunity for you?
Well, it's kind of a very upsetting story. I mean, India was not a very, not considered a very big business for a lot of large format manufacturers. And, there was lack of support. There was lack of proper solutions. So for us, the major infrastructure was just not there. And that's what we suffered. And that was one of the key reasons that large format couldn't grow in India back then. I would see my father suffering at a lot of times when, he would need inks, and he would get the answer that nothing's going to happen until next month. So you shut down your business for 1 month. Why? If the printer breaks down, they cannot have a technician come in, or the technician needs to get the part, which will take about a month and a half to 2 months. So there was all these errors and all these problems that were happening, and India was being, treated as a third world country. But when we did do the same thing in US, we understood that that's just a normal phenomena, that it was not just in India, it was happening everywhere in the world. There were delays, and everything was slow. So for us, that was, I would say, the motivating factor is that we want to make a solution that would be quick, and we won't make the customer wait for so long. Instead of waiting for 24 to 48 hours, I mean, back then it was months, we could get the printer up and running in like minutes and hours. And that was the big edge that we had over everyone. And you know, that was one of our motivating factors as well back then.
And what was different about the technology that you were employing other than trying to inject the simplicity into the product?
Well, from technology point of view, we were, our solutions were designed that even if you're a user, you have the capability of replacing it or changing it. If you look at onto some solutions, you lose your warranty if you touch a certain product, if you decide to change a certain product. Whereas with us, we did not have all of those, secrecy. I mean, even till date, we're not scared to show our technology. We don't want to hide it from anyone. So that was one of the big differences that we created was that, our printer is transparent. You can open up every single panel and see what's inside, and you don't lose any warranties. I mean, imagine you have a printer in front of you, but if you decide to touch it and try to fix it, you lose your warranty. So that's what we don't want to have. We want to create more ease and more transparency between us and our customers. And that was a very key difference that we had as a brand.
And who would you say is your target market these days, recognizing that you've grown a lot, certainly since the business was formed and since 2015 when you came to the United States?
Well, our major market is, I would say, of course, there's the mom and pop shops, there's the starting businesses. But what we've also noticed is, large format and wide format has been industry for years. So there's a lot of experienced printer users that are there and are looking for simple solutions. And that's now been our priority target market because they know the technology and they know what they need now and they're more educated. So it makes it easy to talk to them and understand what we're doing. And I think recently that has been our target audience, which is people that have had large format, wide format printers and are looking to expand into a solution that grows with their business. And they don't have to go out shopping every 2 years if their business decides to grow a scale.
That's great. And entry into the United States is no small task for a lot of foreign companies. So talk a little bit about, the thinking around that, besides the fact that the U.S. market is so big in the aggregate. What was the motivating factor and how did you start?
Well, we started off with, there were certain distribution dealers that wanted to introduce our products into the U.S. And I'll be very honest, we did not have a very good experience. I mean, the initial, I think, there's a very big difference in what sells in Asia and what sells in North America. I mean, the demands of the customers are different. The mindset of people are very different here. And even the product demand is different in the US. So it took us about 2 years to understand the market, to understand the way it works. We were, I would say, literally not selling anything in the first 2 years because the products that we thought would work in the US were not required. I mean, they were more focused on a different product line. And what I'm referring to is we focused on like roll-to-roll printers. That was our strongest product strength back then. But when we came into the US, flatbed was a very major demand. And, we were not ready to do anything like that back then. So we took our time, prepared the right product with the right technology and introduced, one of the first flatbed printers that are upgradable, so an entry-level customer can buy the printer, and as he would grow his business, he could expand. And I feel that was our edge. That was the product that we needed when we initially started. But we learned that we adapted that from the market, and that's how we initially started. So, I'll be very honest. It was an experience, I would say, when we started to what we came into today. But that was the strongest strength that we put together, and the product that we put together that's what the market needed. They needed a solution that they can grow with. They can, adapt to it. And as they would require, they can add more heads, get more speed, add white ink, and solutions like that. So for them, it was something that they can grow as a business with. So I feel that's what the US is all about, is how does the product connect with them and help them grow? Because if you look at any other brand, any other product, their focus has always been, this is what it is, take it or leave it. So with us giving something different to them, I think that's what the market needed in the US. And since then we haven't looked back, and it's been doing wonders for us.
That's great. And you know, the again, I say that you're a bit humble because what you're saying is that you came to a new market, and it took a while even to get used to what the new demands and the new needs were. Do you think that's a typical experience for companies such as yours that come to the U.S. for the first time?
Yes, I mean, it was for us. It was. I would say, I always tell to my team, it was a lot of fun. I wouldn't sleep at night because people would say that no, this is not what we need. The product's not there. We were initially being compared to the Chinese products because a lot of people had a bad taste with Chinese printers back then, and they would not want to invest into anything that's not American or that's not Japanese. So we were like the first come products from India, and people were unaware of it. So there was a lot of buyer's remorse and, a lot of fear initially. So the first 2 years was just all about that, just knowing the customers, understanding what their feelings were, and they're not wrong. I mean, that's how I feel for every business. It's important to face that you won't just get an overnight success when you're building something which is that big. It takes time, and it takes patience, and it takes understanding. So if you know what you're trying to get into the market with, and that's all you need is something that actually has and connects with the customer. And that has been the strongest product solution that we've built since then when we thought about, okay, we need to connect to the customer. And I think that's been our differentiating factor as well as a brand.
So then you get your experience under your belt, and you get some momentum in 2017, 2018, and then COVID-19 happens. How did COVID-19 impact Stratojet, and how did you get through it?
So, I mean, a lot of people did say that COVID-19 did slow down businesses. I think for us, when we kicked back in 2017, 18, 19, we did our record sales. So for us, I think even during the COVID, it did slow down us a little bit, but it didn't, I would not say that it shook us or just stopped our sales. I think Stratojet as a brand was still selling. We were still doing a lot of equipments for customers that were printing for essential signs, specifically for acrylics, for canvases, and then we had customers that were even printing on masks. So it was, I think, for Stratojet, the business didn't stop. Our industry wasn't one of them, which had to face a lot of firings and a lot of losing of business. For us, it was. I would not say we didn't grow those years, but we were getting the same amount of sales that we were getting in 2018. So we were still decent in those 2 years of COVID. Yeah. And then one key ingredient that really helped us in those years was our remote tech. So Stratojet introduced remote tech in 2017, which was one of the other things that I learned in the US was US is huge, and it is impossible to have, a technician in every city of the US. It's just not possible. So we introduced the technology called remote tech, which is basically a diagnostic system that's built in with every printer that the customer gets. So we actually get to know what the customer is doing, and if he's facing any issues, we kind of understand what the problem is, and if we can fix it remotely, or if someone needs to go there with a part, he knows what that part is, and he's not going there and diagnosing the printer, which takes anyways from one full day to 2 days at times. So we cut down those times, and the customers loved that solution as well, that there was, the technicians were coming in, fixing the printers in like a couple of hours and leaving. And then most times they don't even have to visit because it wasn't a part failure. It was just they lost the software, or their PC crashed, or they've somehow deleted their calibration. So for us, that was one of a very strong point, and which helped us do a lot of sales during COVID, because remote tech was still missing in a lot of printers, and they couldn't get support. Whereas with us, they were getting around the clock support. And so for us, that was a very, very, very strong solution that we built, and it helped us even till date. Um, a lot of our customers are really happy for what we do. Is like, well, they say that we had an email from one of my customers I think he was in Arizona, and he said, I've been doing this for over 15 years, but I've never ever called a large format service agency at 11 in the night, and I was able to get my printer up and running by 11:15. He said, I've never seen that ever happen. So people that had the printers that got the feeling of a Stratojet, they would never leave us. So we had a very, very strong product retention and people coming back to us. So I feel like whatever we started back in India, we were able to do the same in the US, of course, in a very different way and with a different product, but the approach till date remains the same. And I hope it does even in the coming future.
It's almost a surprise to many consumers when you call a helpline, especially when your equipment is down, that you can resolve it so quickly and in one call. So that kind of a story goes a long way in terms of building your brand, especially for referrals.
Yes, and that's how it started, because it was a shock to a lot of customers that they can get that, and because they used to feel that, okay, support line means it's a line that they'll call, and then they'll get a call in 24 hours, and a technician would come in. He'll look at the machine, and then the part gets ordered and he gets the part. So, from a 4 to 5 day process, getting the printer up and running in 10 minutes to 1 hour. And if a part is required, then the technician comes in with the part. They said that that's never heard of for them. So for me, it was a surprise as well, because I thought this was already there in the industry, but it was missing. So for us, that was something, I would say, a blessing in disguise, that, it was not there. And then we could use that as an opportunity for building the Stratojet brand. And customers have been, our customers have been liking that. And they literally tell us that, okay, you get us on the phone, whoever's looking to buy the Stratojet, I'll talk to him. So, I would say they're our number one sales guys because they really help us when they talk. And that's, I think, I tell a lot of our, prospects that we're not 50 years old or we're not 80 years old. We're a very young company, but that means that we have, the fire and the edge to bring new innovation into the market. And the Gen Z or the new generation is all about technology. We're very impatient, but we try to do things faster than what, the older way of doing was.
Yeah, that's hugely important. And you're right about the technology aspect. I think that's a bit of what challenges the print market sometimes, in terms of, being able to attract the next generation into the business, whether it's on the equipment manufacturer side or whether it's on the print side.
That's true. And yeah, that's, it's the industry has gotten competitive. So, it means that you need to have a proper supply chain. You need to have a good technical team. You need to have a very, a simple solution, because, I've worked, a lot of the customers that have been doing this for years, they're geniuses, but the newer generation isn't. The newer generation is, they just want the things to be simple, so they don't waste time on understanding it, and they focus more on getting out there and making money and bringing more businesses. So the amount of time they're spending in engineering the printer, they're actually, wasting and not getting enough sales. So from our side, that's the focus, is like, okay, if the printer's running and it's doing what it's supposed to do, the companies can go out there and make money. So it's just that simple. There's no fighting that, and it comes, anyone that uses a Stratojet printer understands that in a few months. And, if it's a different way of doing business. And I think in the future, that's a lot of brands are adapting that. So that means in the future, that's the way of large format is going to be as well.
Right. And Sahil, what do you see in the industry for 2024 and beyond? And I'm sure that your vision is going to determine the path that you go down in terms of how you further develop your products. What does the horizon look like for you?
So our focus initially was always building quality products. We learned that if the product has quality, it is able to produce good output, something that is not there in the industry with a lot of brands unless they invest $500,000. That was missing. So Stratojet always focuses on what's not there in the market and what's something that they can get into, which no one else is doing. So that is the approach that we did take for 23 and is going to be followed on to 24, which is, we have achieved high quality output with our 13 color solution. So no one can challenge the quality part of it. The next stage is, bringing that to the higher speeds as well. So focusing on how we can, transmit the same systems to, small format solutions and to people that don't have enough space and they want to get a flatbed printer. So we are working on solutions that would be, you could say, like a foldable flatbed printer. That's what we're trying to achieve. So something that is more focused towards companies that were not able to enter the flatbed segment because of space or, possibility insufficient funds. Now they would have the capability of doing that. So for 2024, that's our vision, that we will, bring in some new solutions that would help small shops, help them grow, and even the mid-scale shops that don't have enough space, they will have the ability to add in a flatbed printer.
Well, and that's part of this digital transformation for a lot of shops that, maybe are focused on offset and looking to expand their business as offset might decrease. And so that's a great way to look at it, where you can really service that market and address the issue that, space is limited, space is expensive. So to me, it sounds like you're democratizing print, so to speak, in terms of bringing it to the small shop.
Yes. So it would help. I mean, it won't be the same speeds as the large format, full blown flatbed does, but it will at least have them get them a starting point. And then as they would grow their businesses, they could, get bigger spaces, but you need to have a business and you need to make money to get to that second stage. So this is sort of our approach to help them get into that second stage and, expand their businesses. And for people that are already into that industry, we would be focusing on our new color solutions that we just announced in October. So a lot of customers, will get to know about these color solutions and that they can add these to their solutions, which, before October, it required at least $500,000 printers to do so. So it's a big market. It's a big space that we can tap into. And for 2024, that's going to be the focus for us.
And to sum it up, Sohil, I want to congratulate you for your success and the growth that you've seen thanks to your efforts. What would you recommend to an entrepreneur who's looking to take a bit of a risk, but a calculated risk in terms of developing a new product or maybe expanding into a new area that they hadn't seen before and hadn't had a ton of experience in, perhaps?
Well, I would definitely say, that right now, flatbed technology is still untapped. I mean, when you think of a flatbed printer, you think of, I can do yard signs in it. I can do, outdoor boards, and there's so many people doing it, but there's so many untapped businesses that you can tap into with a flatbed printer that no one is doing. I mean, there's a huge market for, home decor solutions. There's a huge market for commercial solutions, corporate solutions, packaging solutions that is missing because customization is in, people want that. I mean, at this point, a lot of businesses are importing that from countries like Europe, from countries like China, because it's not enough what is available in the US. So for any entrepreneur that is looking to dive into the printing industry, I mean, I think flatbed is still an untapped, uh, I would say, solution that's out there. And it's not just us. There's a lot of brands that are offering that, but that is a very big untapped market that I feel the next 4 or 5 years, it should get tapped, and there should be a lot of money that would get into that industry because, like we just talked, the offset is dying, and flatbed printers are the ones that are going to take that market. So there's that full industry that's going to be changed. You even have the prototyping for packaging that is now going into flatbeds because of you can do those onesie twosies testings, which for a big digital press you cannot do the same. You waste a lot of material, you waste a lot of ink. So there's a lot of different markets that are still untapped in our industry, which I see getting tapped in the future.
Yeah, the market is only going to grow in that segment for sure as others contract. Not that there's not going to be a place for offset, because I think there will be for a very long time. But to your point, it gives printers much more flexibility than they have just by relying on a single solution. So congratulations to you and to Stratojet for making that market much more available to the small printer.
Yes, no, it's all thanks to my team. I think it's their efforts, their hard work that has got us here. And the tons of people working in California and in back in India as well that have got us this far. So I am really proud of what we're doing, and I really hope that these strong principles keep going forward in the coming years, and our young company becomes well known to every person in the world.
Oh, that's terrific. Well, listen, thank you for a really interesting discussion. As I said before, I think we all learn from experiences such as yours in which, hard work, but strategy really has resulted in, a creation of a really interesting business that's doing well in the market and growing every day. So thanks for sharing all those insights with us today.
You're welcome. You're welcome. It was a pleasure talking to you. And I hope I answered most of the questions that you had.
Oh, you did. You did well. Just for folks to check you out on the web, let us know where we can find find the company.
So you can look us up on stratojetusa.com. That's the website for the North America that we have. And we soon have a new website coming in with stratojetglobal.com. And that would be for all the European and the international market. So that's a new, very nice development that we're doing, which would help people actually identify printers based on what applications they're looking to do. So that's something that's actually coming up, and you can look us up there as well.
Terrific. Well, again, for everybody that's listened, we really enjoyed the discussion today, Sohil. This is Sohil Singh from Stratojet. And congratulations and best of luck in the future for sure. And just to close it out today, thanks for listening. I'm Chris Santamassimo, one of the hosts of the Think Factory podcast, and we'll see you next time.